Okay, hello, we're PeopleCommune. We start to provide available housing strategies for every Hong Kong students. Before we get started, let me ask you guys a few questions. Do you know how many percentage in HKU of students who cannot get a place in hall? Okay, there are 85% of them. And do you know how much do they have to pay for that? They have to, in order to get a place nearby, okay, in order to get a place nearby, they have to pay for around 8,000 to 10,000. But what do they get? My question actually is, what do they get out of that 10,000? This is what they get. Well, for your interest, that is my room. So, so this is what they get. There are approximately 120,000 of students in Hong Kong, and approximately 30,000 of them who are in need of a convenience place to their work and studies. As an architecture student, I always wonder, are there any other organizations who is working on the problems? But sadly, there isn't much. We have been drowned in all the studio works telling us to have efficient and quality housing, but no organization. The reasons are simple, because students are not a very appealing customers to the world. They lack the bargaining power, and the business model is not very sustainable over time. And that comes our business model. The conditions is bad, then we design it. And then we allow a hosting service on Airbnb, not only to incorporate the students, but also a hosting service. So that extra could be taken from the rent and in order to subsidize them. For example, we have to rent a place of 15,000 rent every month of around 400 square feet. And then what we do is that the average price for Airbnb per night is 500 in Hong Kong. And then if we only rent for 1/3 of the month, which is 10 days, we get an extra of 5,000. And we subtract it from the rent. Therefore, for the 5 students, they only have to pay for less than 2,000. And it's far more comparable to the hall fees, and it makes it more financiable for the students. There are some references to the numbers I quoted. But so I talk a lot about design. If you have noticed, the word design I've used very frequently. As an architecture student, we believe in design, and we believe how that leads us to explore the potentials of space. And this is what the ideal commune is like. There are a lot of potential strategies we can use. My mentor also has told me a lot about his project, the smart home, which is a trend in Hong Kong due to the limited space. We have to optimize the space, and that is something Hong Kong is in need of, a lot of design talents. One design approach I want to share with you guys is the transformable furnitures and the pushable walls. Imagine that we need a room for Airbnb service, but oftentimes for the other 20 days, we don't need it. It's simple. We can just push back the walls. If we need it, we pull it back, and then it creates a room. But we don't need it. We just push it back to the wall. And then it creates an open space for every student. So it optimizes the space and the quality of their life. We don't just give the students a place. We design for them, and then we are quite first in the market. We want to be an interior firm driven by senior interns and students, so we also share the user perspective, as we are students too, and we can tell what they need. And also, with a reduced price compared to almost every minis in around Hong Kong areas, gives them more incentives to join our program. There are a few potentials I want to promote here. So to sum up my ideas, I'm actually using designs to enable a property so that the rent itself, the most important concern for almost every Hong Kong citizens, could be reduced or mitigated. And that is something that could be a solution to the future subdivided unit problems. But to wrap the whole presentations up in just a line: small space, big ideas. And in architecture, we always like to use the phrase, to think forward is to think backward. There's a lot of technology. It's an era of rapid technological growth. We have apps inventing every day, new technologies every day. But sometimes I think it's time for us. We have infinite space on the internet, but we only have finite space from where we are. And sometimes it's a good way to take a look back to our life and to look at the reality, to see that though our space is limited, our ideas are unbounded. Thank you.
Can I just clarify? Are you in the business of helping students to redesign their flat or room to make it Airbnb marketable?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
What is your business? Are you in the design business?
Yep.
To turn around these flats and make them Airbnb
Comparable of Airbnb.
Yeah,
so that they pay
Airbnb
less
marketable,
rent.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so a couple of things then. In terms of the entire go-to-market, you will have to leverage Airbnb or the like, all right? Similar platform for students, for you to market your inventory. To design the flat, who's going to finance the decorations and put in the extra furnitures and all that? The students?
No. Actually, we've done the calculations. We are taking the surplus of the extra of the Airbnb. I mentioned the case of 10 days. Well, initially, we are going to expand it a bit so that we can take that part of money to finance that.
So you are in the business of renting a lot of flats and then rent it to students and put it up on Airbnb?
Yep.
Okay, so you
can
pay
say
the
that.
rent, you pay the decorations, you put in the furnitures, you do all the whole thing.
Yeah, but the students, we can, we make profits out of it from the students is because their rent, even though it is reduces, some of it can be used to cover the cost.
Again, I'm still don't understand. So are you the landlord? You rent places to students?
Yeah.
You do that too, right? And then you put up your flats on Airbnb as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is your customer is the owner of the flat or the tenant?
Sorry?
Your customer is the owner of the room or the tenant?
Tenant.
So you have to reach out to the owners of the flats. You don't have the money to own the flats.
Well,
So
sorry. There are two ways to do it. First of all, we look for suitable flats so we can redesign it. I mean, if the owners, we can also contact owners because I know there are some of them who are willing to own their flats to students, but oftentimes their designs is really bad and they only get a very limited space for the students, and we can work with that. For probably they would pay for some of the construction fees, but still the students in that business model, some of the cost is shared with the students, but even after that, their rent is substantially reduced.
Now you can see that the panel is very confused by business model. Let me ask you this: why don't you, since your competence is really in design, why don't you just set up a design company and take on all sorts of projects, just focusing on design? What's wrong with that?
Because I think, first of all, I think living in this era has become from a necessity to a dream. And I think this problem is especially serious in Hong Kong students. What I'm going to do is more like a social approach to that. I think I'm not really trying to make a lot of money out of it. I'm trying to give back to the students because I think
you give free consultancy. You don't charge. You just give your services to do designs. How's that?
That is also what we'll do, but we'll also do managing because even if we give free, so they can manage it, right? But then we can also do managing service for them because we know that students are very busy all the time. So it would be good to have a centralized system to do that.
So what is the problem is there's not enough available flats for the students, or are the students, they are not able to pay the rent? What is the real problem?
The real problem is that there are not available hall for students. And the second problem is that if you have to rent a place nearby, chances are it's very expensive.
So how you solve the problem of the rental, the affordability of the rental?
How do we solve it? This is part of the business model because if we can redesign the room and make it accommodable for Airbnb, then that part of profits can be used to compensate for the rent. Therefore, the rent would be much lower.
But the space can only accommodate that much people. How
Yeah,
can you have
yep.
incremental revenue? That's something I don't understand.
Yes, because this is something about, I think this is something that Hong Kong has lacked. This is a concept of design. As I mentioned, I share a design approach, which is the pushable walls. There are a lot of projects, if you have heard of, it's called on-not wall and smart homes. This would be a new trend in Hong Kong. And how, conventionally, we perceive that 400 square feet is only able to support for 4 to 5 people. But in fact, it could be more. If we use the space smartly, correctly, like the rooms I mentioned, if we push the wall out, it becomes a room. If we don't need it, it just push it back. So therefore, there are a lot of space for them.
Just a smart comment. You can also solve world hunger.